And welcome everyone to today's lesson, which is about tenses again. Today we're going to be looking at two future tenses and comparing them with each other. So the two tenses we're going to be looking at are future simple, I will do, and I am going to do. Let's look at formulation first. For the future simple, we use the modal verb will with all the pronouns. So it's I will, you, we, they will, he, she, it will, plus the base verb do. And we usually contract will. So it's I'll call him, they'll do it, and she'll resign. Now, coming to the formulation of the going to future, we need the help verb be. So we conjugate that. I am contracted I'm, you, we, they are, there, and he, she, it is, she's. Then we add the phrase going to, and then add the base verb. So I'm going to call him, they're going to do it, and she's going to resign. Just a little note here that a common word you may sometimes hear is gonna. This is the shortened version of going to and is best used in informal situations. And remember that you still need be before gonna. It's not I gonna, it's I'm gonna, they're gonna, and he's gonna. Now, looking at the negative formulation, for the future simple, we add not to our modal verb will and often contracted to won't. And it's the same again for all the pronouns. So I won't call him, they won't do it, and she won't resign. Coming to the going to future, the not is added to our help verb, the verb be, and contracted again. I'm not going to call him, they're not going to do it, and she's not going to resign. Now, with they're not, you can also say they aren't, and with she's not, you can also say she isn't. So let me give you this note about contractions in general. Am not has no contracted form, so avoid saying amn't. Now, the contractions we saw for are and is, you can say are not or aren't, or is not or isn't. They are equally common. But also be careful with the contraction not. It is not common at all. It's always better to contract to won't for the future simple tense. Now, let's look at questions now. So for the future simple, our modal verb will comes to the beginning of each sentence. Will I call him? Will they do it? Will she resign? And of course, for the going to future, our help verb be comes to the beginning of the sentence, of the question. Am I going to call him? Are they going to do it? Is she going to resign? One little note here that you can also ask negative questions. Won't you call him? Aren't they going to do it? Isn't she going to resign? Now be careful that that doesn't change your reply. Whether you ask a positive or a negative question, is she going to resign or isn't she going to resign? If you answer positively with yes, it's yes, she is. And if you answer negatively, it's no, she isn't. Now, I'd like to add a little word here about shall. With pronouns I and we, you can also use shall instead of will. For example, you can say, I shall call him, or we shall not do it, which is also contracted to shan't. We shan't do it. But shall, and particularly shan't, the negative form, can sound very formal. So I'd recommend you use will and won't for all pronouns. It's always safer. However, in the question form, the phrases shall I and shall we are very common for a very specific function, each of them. When you say to someone, shall I call him, you're offering to do something for that person. It really means, do you want me to call him for you? And if you say, shall we do it, you are making a suggestion to the group you're in. This really means, I suggest we do this. Do you agree with my suggestion? So very useful phrases to use in daily conversations. Right, that's all about formulation of these two tenses. Let's have a look at the concepts. Now, I'll do is used a lot in dialogues when we make a decision at the time of speaking, in the flow of that dialogue. For example, let's say person A says, John wanted to talk to you. And based on this information, B says, okay, I'll call him later today. B made that decision in reaction to A as he was speaking. But I'm going to do usually refers to a decision you have already made before the conversation, before the time of speaking. So, for example, if some minutes later person C arrives and says to person B, have you seen John today? B can answer, no, but I am going to call him later, because that decision was made before this conversation started. That's the main difference between I'll do and I'm going to do. Now, along the same lines, we can also use I'll do to express a possible future action. Whereas with going to do, when we use that, we are more talking about our intentions, our personal plans to do something in the future. Now with the I'll future, with the future simple, with the idea of a possible future action, it's always good, it's always necessary actually, to add an expression of possibility in the sentence. So I'll probably finish work early today and go to the beach, and maybe I'll have a swim too. Possible future actions, not completely planned or decided. Whereas if you have already planned, decided, you intend to do something in the future, it's always better to use going to. For example, I am going to finish work early today. I've decided that because I must pick up my son. But I'm going to work a couple of extra hours tomorrow instead. So these are decisions, intentions, not just a possibility. The last thing we need to look at for the difference between will and going to is in the context of making predictions. You can use both forms to make a prediction. What happens is that generally, if you use going to, it makes you sound more certain of your prediction. So you can use either. You can say, I think they'll do it, or I think they're going to do it, or I'm sure they're going to do it is better. Or you can say, I'm sure they'll do it. They are interchangeable. One gives a bit more certainty to the listener. But an important note that if your certainty about this future event is based on very clear present evidence, then the only form we should really use is going to. For example, you see the sofa that's coming into this room and you say, my goodness, look at the size of this sofa. And it's not a good idea here to say it won't fit, because you are absolutely 100% certain. And in this case, it's always better to say it isn't going to fit in this room. Right, that's the end of this brief lesson on the differences in concepts and formulations between the future simple, I will do, and the going to future, I'm going to do. I hope it has helped clarify some questions you may have had on this topic. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. For more on this topic, click here. Remember to also check out my complete online course, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching and happy studies!